Hey, everybody out there in virtual land. Welcome back to a new episode of Bad Blind Moms.
We're just two blind moms doing it all wrong.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I am Bridgit Kenning-Polpeter, and I'm here in Urbandale, Iowa.
And I'm Stacy Cervenka, and I'm here in Lincoln, Nebraska.
And tonight, we have a badass blind mom, Priscilla Yeung.
And Priscilla is joining us from Sacramento, California. She is the mother of two beautiful children. Miriya is 13 and Isaiah is 11. And Priscilla works as an orientation and mobility instructor and the coordinator of the Senior Impact Project at the Society for the Blind in Sacramento. Priscilla, how are you?
Great. Thank you, ladies, for welcoming me into this wonderful Fondue Friday evening.
Oh, absolutely. We're glad you're here. So some of you at home may not know that Priscilla and I used to live in the same city, and we used to have mom's nights out, and we always had them at a fondue place called the Melting Pot. So we decided to honor that occasion with cheese and chocolate during the show. So this week, we're going to be talking about something that's kind of a sensitive topic for moms in general, but maybe especially moms who are blind and low vision. And that topic is mental health and wellness. And, I think particularly within the blind parent community, we have a lot of pressure to show that we've got it all together, that we're totally capable, that we are, we can do everything, and we're just these great parents. And it makes sense that we feel that way because mom culture is like that in general. Moms always have to sort of feel like, they've got it all together, but also especially as blind parents, there's always that concern that if people think we don't have it all together, and if people think our parenting is less than perfect, that somebody might call, Child Protective Services on us, or that we might have to interact with, social services. So I think there's just a lot of pressure. We kind of wanted to be able to let down our guard a little bit and talk with you about some of the challenges that we face as blind moms, and hear about perhaps some of the challenges that you faced as well.
And none of us here tonight are mental health experts. None of us currently work in the mental health care field. But, we're all parents, and, we're friends, and we just really wanted to sit together and with you guys out there and just have a really honest discussion about this.
So I guess, Priscilla, you're a mom of two, and you have worked with a lot of blind people professionally and as friends. And what are some of the challenges that you see, like emotional challenges that you see blind and low vision moms face?
Well, thank you, Stacy, for that introduction, because I really resonated with it, because I think oftentimes it's true. We want to do our best to appear that we have it all together, but really when it comes down to it, we're just moms, like every other mom, just trying to figure it all out. And I think, for me, some of the feelings that I felt off the bat, being a new mom with two young children, very close in age, I felt really lonely and very isolated, especially during the early years. It was really hard not being able to drive. I just want to put it out there. Transportation is a challenge. Being able to get from point A to point B. And, it got to a point where I felt like it was so hard, it wasn't even worth going anywhere anymore with my babies. How do I carry them? Do I use my cane and my stroller? And I have two kids. So one is, in the baby Bjorn, and then one is in the stroller. I'm using my cane. What if somebody kidnaps my baby? If I'm, and I don't know. So all these fears and reservations just really kept me from going anywhere. And
it's hard because, it's hard because the thing that helps you most often when you're kind of in a slump is getting out there and doing things. But at the same point, the idea of hooking a car seat into an Uber, two car seats into the Uber, schlepping them around the mall or around somewhere, it's like so unappealing that it's easy to understand why at times a lot of us don't. It's like, staying home isn't appealing, but going somewhere just takes so much mental and physical energy.
No, it does. We don't get to drive somewhere and leave everything in the car. If we're going to go somewhere, it's generally very concentrated effort. There's strategy involved because we're, as you said, we're lugging everything with us, the car seats, the diaper bag, everything. It has to go where we go. We don't get to leave it in a vehicle.
Yeah. And I think, even if we felt comfortable with our blindness skills and maybe we're good using the cane on our own, but when we have to be responsible for 2 or 3 other human beings that can crawl away or I don't have control over, I think it's the lack of control that really stresses me out. Did you all feel that at all?
For me, I think it was, oh, go ahead, Bridget.
Well, I was just going to say my oldest is on the spectrum and he didn't speak for the first 3 years. And he didn't, he laughed, he made those sorts of sounds, but he didn't make a lot of noise. And so if we were going to be at the playground or, at a store, we kind of had, and, Ross and I are both blind. And so we kind of had to come up with creative ways to deal with a kid who can't respond verbally. And we sort of lucked out because it got to the point with Declan where if he heard our voice, if we're like, hey, Declan, if he would come to us. And I wish he'd be quite that helpful now, but that, I can say, I know that's a very kind of specific scenario, but I did have anxiety about that because, you go somewhere and you're shouting at your kid's name. Well, they can't respond to you verbally. And so, it was just sort of constantly staying on top of him. I think maybe we were, to the outside observer, seemed like helicopter parents because we'd be on the playground equipment with him, but it was a lot of that was just because, I need to know where he's at. I need to know where he's safe and he can't communicate with me verbally right now. So this is what I have to do in this situation. Yeah,
I totally agree. I think I also felt a lot of fear, just for example, going swimming with my children.
Yeah.
I definitely want my children to have experiences, but in the water, being able to monitor their safety and making sure that they, got swim lessons early so that they can monitor their own safety. But just not being able to be in those situations to help them when I think something is wrong, and just trying to think ahead helped me, mitigate some of that fear. But I still think it's still there. It's constantly still there.
And I think there's a lot too about as a young or, as a new blind mom, you're still learning how to travel around town with your kids, and how to do it as efficiently and safely and conveniently as possible. And that takes a lot of mental and emotional work. But then there's also the fear of, okay, what if I show up at the play group? How am I going to be welcomed? Am I going to be stigmatized? Is it going to be awkward? Am I going to just wish I hadn't gone?
Yep.
Yeah, for sure.
For sure.
That is really hard. It's very hard. And I know, I used to be a sighted person. I wasn't always blind. And so I kind of, even though now it's been almost 20 years, but I still sometimes, will get treated a certain way. I'm like, oh, right. I'm blind. You're not. That's what's going on here. But so, for me, I didn't have an initial hesitation about participating in a mom group or anything like that. But then it's when you show up and they're kind of like, we don't know what to do with you. Then it sort of hits me. And then that, after the first couple of times with things like that happening, it really made me second guess, trying new things and wanting to go out and participate because I'm like, well, is it going to be the same reaction? Am I just going to be sitting there, trying to interject into conversations because for whatever reason, people don't always want to include me or because they're uncomfortable. And, you do your best to make them comfortable, which sucks that we have to do that, but sometimes, you know.
And that's emotional work. That's
Yes.
work.
It does take work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Besides monitoring your children, trying to have a good time, making conversation, taking the first step to break the ice, it takes a lot of emotional work. You know, go ahead.
And I was going to say, it's tough because the fact is, if we don't do that emotional work, then it only leads to loneliness and more isolation. So I think often, you know, we have to be gentle with ourselves and understand that, you know what, it is hard. And if we don't want to do it some days, that's fine. But for me, I feel like even though it's hard, I have to get myself over that hump, because in the long term, I'm happier. Like, it might be difficult for a while, but then my life is so much better.
Yeah,
I agree.
Not all the time, but a lot of the time.
For sure. And I mean, I think, you know, for me, after, you know, a day of just feeling really stressed out, I think some of the things that I've learned is, you know, treat myself well. You know, if I want to take a hot bath, eat ice cream, stay in my pajamas, whatever I need to do to fill my cup so that I can just be a better mom and a better human being.
Yes.
It's okay.
And we should say before you get any ideas, Priscilla works as an O&M instructor. She has 2 of the most active children you will ever meet. They are involved in like every activity.
They're very busy.
Very busy. Priscilla is active at her children's school with the PTA. I mean, Priscilla, I don't know how she does it.
Yeah.
I don't know either. And I mean, I think I've learned a lot about just, you know, how to just do things one step at a time and making a lot of mistakes along the way, and just telling myself every day, it's okay to make a mistake. I'm only human. And if I can tell my kids it's okay to make a mistake, they're going to be better too. So I don't think my kids are looking for perfection. I think for a long time I was like, I just want to be the perfect mom, perfect wife, or whatever, perfect. But now I realize it's not about being perfect. It's just about forgiving myself, having grace, and making those human connections that I need to. So it took a long time to learn that.
You know, I for a very long time thought that it didn't matter if I was being taken care of. You know, I didn't really think to do what I needed to do to put myself somewhere in a good mental and emotional state. But I've learned that if I'm not taking care of my emotional and mental well-being, I can't take care of anyone else.
And I think it's like when your cup is full, it overflows to your spouse and your children. Yeah. But when your cup is empty, you have nothing to give.
Exactly.
What kind of strategies do you ladies have to kind of deal with all these stresses and feelings?
You know, it depends on the day. It depends on the moment. Sometimes it's locking myself in a closet and screaming, but no.
That works.
It's like daddy gets home and I'm like, I'm out, you're in. But obviously that's not something we all, can do so anyway, but I find physical activity kind of helps me. I hate to be that person, but for me, I like to do yoga. I'll just get down on the floor and start doing some yoga. If I'm in a mood, the kids are like, what? Yo, mom's doing her yoga. All right. But also just, I don't know, like you said, just take whatever works for you. So I like to write. I'm a writer. And so sometimes I'll just have thoughts, I'll have feelings, and I'll just emote it onto the page. So that helps me as well. So I don't know, but I just sort of take what I can do in any given moment. If I'm stressed, if I'm, tearing my hair out, if it's just been a bananas day, and just do what I need to do. If the kids need to spend some more time in front of the TV, if they need to, I don't know, wrestle around in the living room, you know what, they can do that. I'm going to take my 5, 10, 15, whatever, break I need and do what I'm going to do in this moment.
Yeah. And reset, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Or have a good cry, or have something yummy to drink.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you see, ladies, when I'm stressed out, I make myself a nice kale smoothie and I write in my dream journal. And
Kale smoothie.
Kale
Yeah.
smoothie. It really
Oh my gosh.
it detoxifies my stress.
Yes.
No, I do not do that.
With fiber, Stacy.
Yes, that's right. I think the unhealthy way that I tend to deal with things is just to sort of shut down. Because I'm so busy, I'm so running around that it's like all of a sudden I just need to be in like a quiet, dark room where no one is bothering me. But I think one thing that has helped me a lot is finding something that is just for me and that is not about my kids as much as I love them, but it's something that's not me taking them around to activities or worrying about their needs. And it's not about work because often I work long hours.
Mm-hmm.
So I've taken up ice skating classes, and it's been really nice for me because it's given me something to focus on. When I'm on the ice, I'm not thinking about my kids. I'm not thinking about my job. I'm just thinking about like, okay, hand here, head here, move your arm. But like we said earlier, that did take a certain amount of courage on my part because I knew that I wanted to get involved in something, in an activity, in something like this. But there is always that fear that what if I go and they're like, we don't want to and I would feel unwelcome or awkward. And it was like, so you do have to put yourself out there. And sometimes you put yourself out there and it's a big old disappointment. And like, I think it's okay to feel that way and to bottom out about it. But then eventually you got to get back and try again. Like you have to.
Yeah. I think just talking to you ladies have just helped me already not to feel alone and to feel more connected.
Because you want my kale smoothie recipe?
Yes, I really want to just reach across that Zoom and just have a sip of that.
Take that. It's made of kale, chia seeds, and flax. I don't know.
Coconut water.
That's right. This is salted caramel hot chocolate, by the way.
I will take you through a yoga session.
Yes. And, I just meditate and I feel better. It's exactly. You know what, guys? It's mindfulness. Okay. It's mindfulness.
Yes.
That's what it is. Okay.
Positive.
Or maybe it's binge watching on Netflix.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yes.
Or that. Yes. No, for sure. No, like many a weekend morning, I'm like still in bed at like 10, 11, just on Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, leave mama alone right now. I need to chew. I need to unwind from the week.
And though, I do have to kind of acknowledge our privilege here because as I'm thinking about it, we are all married. Yeah. And we have the ability at times to rely on our spouses. Yes. And some of the suggestions that we're giving, like in my case, joining an activity, I mean, that requires some disposable income. And so, in the television community, people are disproportionately, economically disadvantaged. And like in any other community, we have single parents, we have all kinds of, family. I mean, I would love to learn more about how single parents find that time.
No, that for sure. Yes, that we do actually come from a place of privilege here in many ways. So I will say for almost 6 months, Ross was living and working here in Iowa, and the boys and I stayed, Iowa, and the boys and I stayed in Omaha. And, no, I wasn't technically a single parent, but Ross is only coming home on the weekends, and it wasn't every weekend. So I had a little taste, of what that life was like. And I will tell you, like and all this is happening with COVID. So not only am I now home alone with the kids 24/7, we can't go anywhere. So it was hard. It was really, really hard. But I will say that there were times where my best was leaving them to their own devices because I needed kind of that mental checkout in order to be able to deal with things. And so, you know, and obviously, again, there were extenuating circumstances, but I think that you have to, I think you said this, Priscilla, you have to be kind to yourself. You have to be gentle with yourself. You know, if getting up and going somewhere at this time or doing something physical, you know, if that's not your jam, or if you just can't do that right now, you don't have someone to help with the kids, whatever your case is, like, you do what you need to do and what works for you. Because there were plenty of times in the past month where the kids, I mean, I'm going to be honest, like, they were in front of the TV all day because there was
there is
really
nothing wrong with that. No judgment here.
Yeah, because I that's what I needed to do for my mental health and well-being. Yeah.
And, you know, another thing that I kind of want to point out, and I know that it's something that I think about a lot, is that self-care can be a lot of things. Sometimes self-care is a bubble bath or a hot shower and a morning or an afternoon or a day watching Netflix. And that's important. But sometimes self-care is also being like disciplining yourself and saying, you know what, I am going to get to the gym. That is self-care. Or I am going to write that chapter or, you know, write that article that I said I was going to write because it's a gift to myself. In the future, I'll be so glad I did it. So sometimes self-care is that really gentle care, but sometimes it's also being that person you need to encourage yourself, like having that voice in your head that encourages you and keeps you moving forward. Like, okay, you know what I'm saying? Like,
for sure. I think self-care is also giving ourselves the freedom to cry. I think sometimes being able to feel and cry and just get all that out, it's a good thing. Stay in our pajamas all day. Yeah. It's okay.
Yes. Yes.
So I guess kind of to end this little episode, Priscilla, if you could give blind and low vision moms one piece of advice about mental and emotional and kind of wellness health, what would that be?
I think sort of what we just, you know, talked about is fill our own cups first. Take the time for ourselves as moms so that we could be the best ourselves, you know, because when we're feeling full, we can give to our family, everybody benefits. And there are so many situations where we cannot control the stress or the feelings that we feel. And it's okay just to feel them and just to reach out and to let yourself remind yourself that you're not alone and that there's so many ways of connecting. I think now because of COVID, there's so many things that we could, you know, Zoom, or we can do, you know, Facebook or whatever we need to do to reach out to somebody. And the other thing is we don't have to reinvent the wheel. I think if there are real issues and challenges that we're facing as blind people, we can probably find another person who has gone through it and get some advice. And we don't have to reinvent the wheel. And when we solve our problems, it can relieve some of that stress.
Well, and I know, Priscilla, you've told me that the Society for the Blind in Sacramento now has an on-staff full-time counselor.
Yes.
And is that something that you think some moms might want to take advantage of?
Absolutely. I myself just started counseling this past month, and it's just for myself. Yeah. And for maintenance, and just somebody to kind of talk to get some perspective and just to, you know, do that work for myself to get, you know, better and to clean up whatever I need to within my own heart. And so I think it's so good to do that if you have the opopportunity to get some counseling.
Yeah. You know what I think too? I think it's really cool. I mean, hats off to the society for having a full-time counselor that is, my understanding is that any blind person can, you know, take advantage of their services. I wish more blindness agencies did that, because I think, you know, being a blind person in society is stressful. Like it is, they recently classified racism as a public health issue and is a mental health issue. And I think ableism is too, because every time you leave your house, you're dealing with stigmas, and you're having to like manage other people's perceptions of you. And I mean, it's stressful. So I think, I wish more blindness agencies had on-staff counselors that could provide free counseling to anyone who wanted and needed it. I think that's like
absolutely,
really, for sure. I mean, we as disabled people, we come up against so many microaggressions in a day, and you know, after time, it wears you down. It really does. I mean, there are times where I question, do I want to leave the house today? And not because I am worried about what I'm going to do, but it's like, who am I going to encounter today? What attitude am I going to encounter today? What stupid thing is somebody going to say to me today? And it does impact me mentally sometimes, to the point where I find myself holding myself back from doing things because I just don't want to deal with these societal perceptions anymore. And so I think that's a very valid thing. And I think especially, not especially, but I think, well, you know, really, I was going to say, especially when you're new to blindness, but really it's both, but just having access to somebody that you can talk to about these things, and who, you know, understands the, you know, actual psychology of it, would be so beneficial.
For sure. I agree.
Well, Bridgit, what is the one piece of advice you would give blind and low vision moms about mental health and wellness?
I mean, this is just sort of, I think, reiterating what we've been saying, but excuse me, I think that, you know, sometimes as blind people, we see what other people are doing, or what we perceive they're doing, how they're living their lives. We sometimes feel like we're being judged for what we're doing or not doing. And, you know, at the end of the day, it's just background noise. Like, you have to live your life. And I know it's so much easier said than done, but like, you have to live your life, and you have to do what works for you and your family and your situation. Don't listen to that noise, and, you know, find some other, if you can, you know, find some other like-minded blind people who aren't going to, or at least as you perceive, you know, being judged, because I think that happens. I mean,
you know, blind people are not judgmental.
It's, but I think we sometimes feel that we are being judged. I think that there are a lot of variables that go into this, but I know I have felt this way, and I've talked to a lot of people who have felt this way. And at the end of the day, I just need to do what I need to do, you know? And, you know, if I don't feel like being a jet setter this week, you know, then so what? You know, if I'm not doing so, we are not all going to do things the same way. So, and that's okay. You know, that we're not a monolith. So, you know, you be you, you do you, and that's okay.
Great advice. And I think my piece of advice would be similar. I think it's acknowledge the feelings and the thoughts that you actually have. Don't worry about whether they fall into some arbitrary box that is considered acceptable or not acceptable, or good blind parents think this way, or, you know, all the together blind parents think this. It's like, you know, you acknowledge how you are feeling and what you are thinking, and be honest with yourself, and be honest. Find other people that you can be honest with, who aren't going to try to talk you out of how you're feeling.
Yeah,
exactly.
Which is why we're here.
I feel better already.
Right, yes.
I feel better.
Well, you guys, this has been a really great conversation. I appreciate your guys' honesty and transparency. Thank you guys for joining us, the Virtual Mom Squad. You know, and we would love to hear from you, how you deal with a lot of these things. You can contact us on Facebook, on our Facebook page at Bad Blind Moms. Our Gmail is badblindmoms@gmail.com. And also, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Bad Blind Moms. And you can also follow us on Twitter at Bad Blind Moms.
Okay, so do you want to like bring it on home?
Yes. Okay. Sorry, it just your comment made me think of something. Okay. Anyway.
Okay.
Sorry. Distracted. Okay. Now I gotta get my shit together. Which, by the way, I would like applause. I've gone through this episode without swearing. So,
Yay!
Well, I'm definitely keeping that comment in.
Wow, you're keeping it clean tonight.
I know.
Okay.
Well done.
Thanks. Yes, we know how hard that is. You know me and my vulgarity.